Welcome to our TST Dialogues, where we'll be talking about different issues in our Southern African region. And today we are here in Nairobi, Kenya, where the park is currently being held. And the issue of taxation is really on the menu this week. And today we're going to talk about taxation and gender. And I'm joined here with the Executive Director from FEMNET. Her name is Memory. Memory, welcome to our Dialogues.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be part of your dialogues today.
You are welcome. So, tell us, people have been going on and on about the issue of taxation, issues of policies, and other aspects that are linked to taxation. But today, I recently discovered something about taxation that can also be linked with gender issues. So, would you enlighten us on how taxation issues are linked to the issues of gender?
Okay. So, first and foremost, what I should say is anything that has to do with tax or macroeconomics can have a gendered lens. So when you talk of how tax intersects with gender, I think I just want to give a simple example. There was a study which was done a few years ago about a woman who was selling, she had a kiosk where she was selling some beer. And just in front of a big manufacturing company. So whilst this woman was selling her beer, she was being charged tax for value addition tax, yet that company, the big multinational, was not being charged any tax. It had a tax holiday. So it meant that as a woman who was selling, she was being charged double tax. So it's just not the tax from her sales, but even on other commodities, there's always that thing when you buy, there's always that value-added tax. So tax, I just used an example. This can be a woman, it can be anyone, but I just use this example to demonstrate that when we look at most women, first and foremost, most women who are in the informal sector, they have small businesses. And you find most of their businesses are usually taxed. And they usually use what is called presumptive tax. So presumptive tax is not the actual amount, but it's calculated based on what you are possibly earning. And because they are taxed that much, it's a lot in terms of they get this tax and then they also get double tax. We also know, especially in Southern Africa, that most of the women are involved in cross-border trade. And in cross-border trade, there's been lots of examples in terms of how they are double taxed. So they are taxed when they buy the goods, they are taxed by the authorities when they cross the border, and then they are then taxed when they put those things in their shop. So all these series in terms of how they can be taxed. So what we are saying is we really want to look at how the issue around tax, revenue collection, as well as its expenditure also has a gendered impact. How does it affect women? How does it affect men differently? So that's more like a simplistic way of saying issues to do with tax, they really do have a lot when it comes to women. In Tanzania, for example, one of the things that we saw recently, actually in this year, just last year, when the budget for 29, no, this year actually, when the budget for 29 was being put up, the government reintroduced taxation on menstrual products. So as a way of, we want to do domestic resource mobilization and things like that. And when we do come and we start talking about menstrual tax, that's a huge, huge issue, which we know that it affects women. Because if menstrual products are taxed, it means that women are paying for having their menstruations, which I think is not a fair thing to do. And we know that most of the companies that produce most of these menstrual products, some of them, if they sometimes, if they've been maybe their company in the country, some of them are even given tax holidays, some of them are not even taxed themselves. And then if you are importing the menstrual products, you go through the same cycle where your goods are taxed, where you buy them, they are taxed at the border, they are taxed at the shop. So yes, there are a lot of ways where tax issues have a bearing in terms of gender.
Okay, you mentioned examples on how it actually affects gender, and in most cases, it's women who are left vulnerable. In your opinion, what do you think maybe policymakers can also consider to ensure that these issues involving women, especially in the informal sectors, they're actually handled in a fair manner? In your opinion, what do you think should be done?
Okay, so I think there are two main things. First of all, is menstrual tax should just be removed across all countries, really. And I think this is something that we've been lobbying for. And a lot of people think, oh, but all you ever talk about is menstrual sanitary products and things like that. How about the big issues in terms of how tax actually impacts? So I think the first thing is to just remove tax on menstrual products. Yeah, but I think also in terms of making sure that women and women's rights organizations are also part of this conversation around tax, and they get to understand how this impacts on their daily lives. So you find that most tax regulators, they interact a lot, or they might have seminars or workshops around tax issues. And sometimes they don't think that, oh, but maybe we need to have women's rights organizations to be part of this conversation. So the second thing, I think we must make sure that women's rights organizations are part of this conversation. They are contributing to these conversations. Even consultations regarding, is it an increment in taxes and things like that. So this is a conversation that they have to be on the table. But I think policymakers should overall look at fair taxation in terms of multinational corporates, some mining companies. We know a lot of tax is lost, a lot of revenue is lost by these multinationals through maybe tax avoidance, which they call tax planning. But we know that the money is actually leaving the countries where they are supposed to be benefiting. And I think in this conference where we've been talking about taxing the invisible and talking about the digital economy, I think that's a conversation where we should start really thinking through and saying we need policies which can actually start regulating that economy as well, because not only does it impact the revenue base for the policymakers and the governments, but it's also something that is extractive. It's taking our data, it's taking our information, and this is something that is here to stay. This is something that is happening. So we want to be part of that conversation. We want to be on the table discussing how we can collectively as a continent really see how we can benefit from this economy, participate from this digitalization economy, but also in the same way have solutions which are innovative, but there's also regulations. We participate in the drafting of those policies and regulations to regulate the digital economy.
Okay, wow, that was so detailed. As we conclude, maybe you would like to share more on what FEMNET does, how it originated, the objectives, and the like a brief summary.
Okay, so FEMNET is 31 years this year. We were born out of the Nairobi Looking Forward meeting, the third world conference that was coming to Africa. And because it was coming to Africa, the women's activists and different organizations came together and said they needed an organization that can be at the forefront in terms of sharing information to African women, organizing and having women come up with a collective voice in these global processes. So FEMNET is a Pan-African feminist network. We have over 700 members in 48 African countries, and we are currently driving the coordination of the civil society report for 25 years of Beijing. So FEMNET, we inform, we mobilize, we link, we do a lot of policy advocacy where we are linking the global dialogues, the decisions that are made at a global level, and we bring them to the regional Africa level, REX level, and then to the national level, and also taking the experiences from the national level to the regional platform, the AU platform, as well as the global platform. So we are there. Our membership is women's rights organizations, activists, individuals, very diverse, young women's organizations, media. We work a lot with the media. We also have parliamentarians who are part of our membership. So we have very diverse membership. And our secretariat is based in Nairobi, but we work across the continent.
Okay, thank you so much, Mary. That would be all. And guys, if you're watching and you have questions in regards to this dialogue, feel free to email me at Sharon@southerntimesafrica.com. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow us on Facebook so that you hear